with regards to heart versus head, etc. But Rodrigo is going to bring in the perspective of Indigenous groups, which again, so often are groups that certainly in the past, the sector has not got its head around what is going on from an Indigenous person's or people's perspective. So with that, please put your hands together for the fantastic Rodrigo. Thank you, Rodrigo.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you, Eileen and everyone who has been organizing this. And Isabel, I don't know how I'm gonna start after the wonderful presentation that you have done. I have so many ideas that came to my mind with your presentation, but I will try to do my best after. This is like playing after the Rolling Stones. I don't know how I'm gonna do it now, but let's try. Well, hi everyone. My name is Rodrigo Galleguillos. As Sarah told you, I am in Santiago de Chile. And I'm going to speak now about some aspects, some challenges, and some opportunities that lies in the relationship between mining companies, mining projects with indigenous peoples in Latin America. Well, for a brief introduction, I'm a lawyer. I'm from study in the University of Chile here in Santiago, and I hold a master's in natural resources and environmental law in the University of Denver. And this mixture of like heart and mind that Isabel told recently, I think that the natural resources, the environmental law world, and especially the indigenous peoples, the relationship between development, mining projects, and indigenous peoples, it's a very good part of our work if you're interested in mixing this both part of the human being and society. So I'm gonna start now, excuse me. Okay, well, let's start with the basics. And why are we sitting here? We are in a transition for a new economy that relies less on carbon emissions and have to tackle with the problems associated with climate change. And in this sense, there's this energy transition minerals that many people has been saying that they are key for this transition. We are talking about copper, lithium, rare earths, and there is a relatively recent study that says that it reviewed more than 5,000 projects around the world and realized that more than 60% of them are either located in indigenous peoples, indigenous territories, or places that are located close to those indigenous peoples. So if we want to mine the resources that we need to make the transition to this new economy and a new world, we really need to take focus on how we are going to do this in a way to avoid problems. Problems there will be all the time, but we need to do this in a better way than we did in the 19th or 20th century, especially in regards with indigenous peoples. And if we see across the Americas, we have a lot of work to do. We see here this is a map from the social environmental conflicts, and we see that all across the Andes, from Colombia to Chile and Argentina, and in the North America and Central America, where there are resources, usually there are people around, and we found problems. We found problems in how water is used, in the affectations to the forests, to natural environments, to animals. So every day is more complex to develop one of these mining projects that are so needed for the transition to a cleaner energy economy. So here I'm going to start on why this is important. Why there is we have a protection to indigenous peoples in regards with the environment. And I'm going to start asking Sarah. Sarah, what do you think? Why do we have, why do you believe that the indigenous people have a connection with the environment of a different nature than the rest of the civil society that requires a specific legislation to protect them?
I think it's their home, Rodrigo. So
Very,
they've got
very.
they've got a family and historical tie to that patch of land.
That's a very good question. Isabel, what do you think about that? The same question that I did. I'm sorry, I teach mining law here in Santiago, and I like to engage with the students because otherwise they get sleepy. So, Isabel.
Rodrigo, you caught me as I was replying to Lucy in the chat, so I missed that. I missed the question. I do apologize.
Don't worry, don't worry. And we were, I was just asking. Indigenous peoples have well, we have in most of the world like a special legislation protecting their relationship with the environment. So my question for you is, why do you think we need this to have this special legislation to protect that specific relationship instead of the relationship for anyone who lives in London or in New York has with, I don't know, the Central Park or the Hyde Park, for instance?
Power in inequality.
Yes, well, we have an history. We have an history of thank you very much, Isabel. We have a history of like bad treatment to indigenous peoples, and that is part of the equation. But I will say that the core of this special protection is because they have a special relationship with the environment. They find in the environment, they have, they find food, they find cultural a cultural relationship with the water, with the land, and a religious connection. So they have a relationship of a special nature that again is different than the rest of the societies linked with the nature. So that specific relationship is protected by law. We have seen this from even in the colonial times before 19th century in what is today Australia, United States, and well, my continent, Latin America, South America and Central America. Even the Spanish conquerors, they had some kind of protection and a special legislation in regards with them, but as of the Human Rights Declaration of 1945, we have seen an evolution of a body of law that tries to protect them. And again, this specific relationship with the environment. That, as you know, that everyone who works in mining here, mining has impacts over the environment. So we have these specific levels of protection from an from an international standpoint to a national standpoint that tries to seek and to protect and to consult them before or with the occasion of a modification of a mining project that may have the susceptibility to affect them in their core beliefs or in their core way of beings as indigenous peoples. Okay, so we have, well, the most common, like, and the most relevant piece of law, international law here in Latin America, I would say that is the International Labour Organization Convention 169 that establishes a series of protections to indigenous people, but establishes the duty to consult. That national states have the duty to ask them, to consult them before issuing some measures that will affect them. For instance, the environmental license for a mining project. Okay, and we have seen a development of that body of law. Then we have in the 2000s the United Nations Guiding Principles, United Nations Declaration on Indigenous Peoples' Rights, and some other like private standards from companies or the International Council of Mines and Mining, etc. So again, we see that we have these mining projects that affect the environment, that has the power to impact the environment, and we have these indigenous people that may be affected by them or will be affected by them. How this intersection works? So, as I said before, we have the duty to consult that many of the Latin American countries have, and for instance, in Canada, they have, but based in their national legislation and their duty to consult under the Canadian Constitution. But basically is to go and ask them about and to inform them about the project, to ask them their opinion, and as a general rule, they are consulted, but their consent is not a requirement. So there are some exceptions, but you also have some contraceptions linked with resettlement of indigenous peoples. But as general terms, you have to go consult, do your best efforts to fulfill a series of principles and ways of engagement in order to carry on this consultation, but the consent is not needed. This concept got an evolution, and today we have the free, prior, and informed consent. And if you have been involved in this world of indigenous engagement and mining, it's like it's very like popular these days. And as its name said, is that you go and to try before your project is being executed, and you ask for the consent. And if the consent, in general terms, if the consent is not given, you can't go further with your project. This is, I will say, the highest standard today in the mining sector. And as it is, we have seen that the largest mining companies in the world are compromised with this. We see here that the Indigenous Peoples Policy Statement by BHP. Freeport, the American mining company, also has like a human rights policy that establishes a commitment with the free, prior, and informed consent. So imagine if you are in London and you want to develop a mining project in Latin America, and you say, I want to do the best. I want to go with the FPIC, and I want to ask for the consent of those people that may be impacted. So why I'm here today, and sorry for this brief introduction, I want to talk to you about some tensions and challenges that comes in Latin America and in Chile and Argentina and Peru, even if you want to do the right thing, okay? So I identified these 5 based on my experience and well, the people that I have engaged over the years. I think that these are 5 challenges that we have to confront if you want to do a project here in Latin America. First of all, the roles of governments and companies in the search of consent. Again, imagine we are committed with FPIC, with the free, prior, and informed consent. But the first question is, who has to go and ask? Those countries, Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, that have signed and ratified the Convention 169, are the national states the ones that are entitled with the duty to go and ask for the consent of those peoples, of the indigenous peoples. But many times, those national states, they don't have the resources, they don't have the ability to amend as a specific mining project, for instance. So even when they are in theory entitled to do this work, mining companies or natural resources company in general, energy companies, wherever you may think, they have a strong work to do here. I mean, at the end of the day, many times the governments may suggest some modification. For instance, if your open pit must be located in another part and it is technically feasible to do that, you are the one that will be in charge of that. You are the one that can build the relationship before you file the environmental permit before the national authority. So in the challenge that we have seen here is this tension, because for instance, in Brazil, I have worked with people there, and lawyers tell me that even when it is the national state, the one that it is in charge of doing this, there are lack of guidance, and many times even when the mining companies want to do the work, they lack the regulations or proper guidance by the national states. So here is a tension that, again, if you want to do the right things here, you may face this challenge. A second one, that this is one of my favorites, to who or whom should I ask? Because there are some parts of the world, United States, Canada, where indigenous tribes, Indian tribes, have a set of rules, for instance, and you go to the leader of a tribe, and he can say to you, well, this I don't know, 100 persons are part of the tribe, and you go and you know exactly where you can go to ask. But for instance, in my country and other countries of the region, that task is much more hard to perform. Sometimes, well, the state can recognize some tribes, but there are other people that recognize themselves as indigenous people. And even when they are not recognized by the national state, they say that they are indigenous people, and that they must be subject to the special protection that this law, the FPIC entitles them. So also you have projects, and I put here this image of people in the Amazonas, because maybe that's when, if you are in London, in Europe, and you think like in the indigenous people, you want to do a project in Latin America that may affect indigenous people, probably the people in the indigenous tribe in Amazonas will be the first thing that came to my mind. But in Bolivia, in Peru, we have a different reality. I mean, much more complex reality. We have indigenous people that lives in cities. And for instance, if you want to build a building in the middle of a city of one of the Latin American capitals, or a grid transmission lines, and you have a neighbor who there is like Aboriginal organizations there that they practice their religions, they practice their culture there, and your grid connection will pass next to them, maybe you will be entitled to do a consultation, even in the middle of Santiago, of La Paz, of Peru, of Lima, Peru. So, so this is, and even sometimes, again, you want to do the best. Here I also put a picture of this is the Salar de Maricunga, the Maricunga sulfate, where there is lithium in the north of Chile. And last year we had a tension between indigenous communities, because 8 of them say, Chilean state, if you want to consult here, if these projects should go further, you have to ask us, the 8 ones, not the other ones. And other communities file legal claims, against that decision. And it was a clash between communities that belong to the same people, the Coya people. So this matter was resolved, was addressed by the Chilean Supreme Court last year. And they said these other people, these other tribes should not be included because they are far away, and they established a series of considerations why they should be left away. But there is tension in the territory. So, and very, very connected to the previous one is, what should I understand by susceptibility of affectation as a trigger for consultation? Because if we think in a large mining project, of course it will cause or has the ability to cause impacts on dust emissions, on water infiltration, etc. But if I tell you, I want to publish a book on traditional indigenous tribes recipes, will you say that it will require a consultation? There are some people especially in the academic world, that say, yeah, because you are sharing some cultural knowledge, so you should go for a consultation on that. So here there is another, like, I am going a little away from mining projects, but perhaps some small drilling, a test welling, a well test, in order to determine the quality of the waters. You are not pumping, you are not, you just want to test waters. It may be required to a consultation process with all the complexities associated with that, with the time involved, with the resources involved, with the need to engage specifically with those people that may be affected, and that, as I don't know, I see Mark Fellows here, as we have worked with mining companies for many years. For mining companies, this will represent like costs and time, and you know that that's key for the development of a mining project. And very important, the evidence. You have to collect evidence in order to see if the quality of the evidence. And here there is a picture of a project that it was an energy project, an hydro project, energy project in the south, that it obtained its, this is in Patagonia, it obtains its environmental license, but it was withdrawn by the Supreme Court, by the courts in Chile, because it failed, its methodology failed in order to really determine if there was a susceptibility of affectation. And because of the quality of that assessment, the courts declared null that environmental license and had to came back again. So it is very important, this. And finally, well, I think this is very connected with Isabel's presentations, the political scenario. We have seen, there is the perception that, I will say in Spanish because the pendulum, I think it is in English. We came, many people, or some people are saying today, we have come too far. We need mining with that energy, and we need to deregulate. We need these projects must go, must be fast approved, and we don't have to consult everyone. So we have to go further with the mining projects that our economies need. And this creates a tension, because many times, even when in countries where you have separation of powers, you have the legislative, the executive, and the judicial branch, maybe the laws will restrict this, or maybe, there will be executive regulations by the governments, but indigenous peoples will still have the ability to bring you as a state or as a mining company before courts. And as far as there are independent branches, they might put in tension the successful implementation or execution of your project. But here is the title that Sarah and Eileen bring us to discuss today, that I love it. Exploring certainty, resilience, and responsibility in mineral value chains. So what can we do? And I really like what Mark Fellows said recently, that we have to live with the uncertainty, and what we have to do is to create resilience. So whenever you're faced with the opportunity to bring or want to execute a mining project in Latin America, how do you develop resilience? And here are some opportunities that I see. First, for many of you are in the risk analysis business, so for you it will be like, like Rodrigo, this is basic. But you will be surprised that there are, when you talk about this indigenous engagement, the environmental licenses, many times when you speak with engineers, you have to bring it to numbers and to a risk matrix. What will be your worst case scenario? That this project will be in consultation and obtaining environmental license for 8 years, for 9 years. What will be your best case scenario? You have the support of the communities, of the local communities. So this will take only 2 years, 3 years to take. And this is the middle ground. Like, what is the best scenario that you can take? Like, maybe I will not be able to include all the communities, because some of them has, I don't know, sometimes have a real reluctance to enter into agreements with mining companies, but you have to prepare yourself to confront those risks. You have to have good analysis. You have to have good evidence of the intention that you have to engage with them, that you offer reasonable things, and to be able, at the end of the day, to defend your project and the project's ability to really take consideration of the indigenous people's interest before courts, before auditory agency, etc. In this sense, to plan for the highest standards possible. I mean, even when the legislation will be modified, the regulation will be modified. I mean, we have to confront a world where we have to, as a mining sector, we have to do the best work as possible, period. Okay? And to me, the number 3, there is a big opportunity in Latin America, including communities in the project outcomes, in the project's benefits. In Canada, in Australia, there has been many experiences of mining companies that have support indigenous organizations to, for instance, be independent consultants to provide energy, like this Yuringa example in Australia. Here, this has been in Latin America in general, it has been a shy movement. You are seeing people that many times delivers food, maybe transportation, but if you are able to really include in organizations, indigenous organizations, in the successful of operation of a mining operation, I think that the social network, the social bond that you will make in your community will support you to operate successfully. And I believe in this sense, social investment pays off. Many times, big meetings are managed here in Santiago, in Lima, in Buenos Aires, but in the mine, you have only one person or two persons to connect with, I don't know, like 5, 6 organizations. So you need to invest in this, because this will help and will support the continuity of your operation. And all of this, it comes to one word: trust. At the end of the day, all the complexities that I mentioned to you, if the organizations really trust your project, they will not use, or they trust you, they will not use these consultations or this look for consent opportunities as a leverage opportunity to bring past debts that maybe you will have with them. And well, I appreciate this opportunity, and thank you very much for having me here.
Brilliant. Thank you very, very much, Rodrigo. Absolutely fantastic. Gracias. I'm sure that there are lots of questions in the chat for you, Rodrigo. Unfortunately, in the interests of time, we're going to have to keep moving along. But everyone, please, round of applause for the fantastic Rodrigo. Brilliant. Excellent.